Have you ever noticed how everything with the narcissists is so extreme? Like they go from not knowing who you are to becoming extremely interested in you to suddenly ignoring you and withdrawing from you? Narcissists like to pull their attention away from people once they've spent some time focusing intensely on that person because they like to destabilize the person that they're with. They like to shake the grounding of that person. So the person isn't too sure about themselves, isn't too confident. And narcissists are trying to prove a point about their worth. They're trying to prove a point to themselves that they can get you interested in them, then they can pretend to themselves and to you that they don't care. And they want to believe it. And they want to see that they can put you in this nerve-wracking state by doing that. And getting the expected reaction out of you. When narcissists do that, they ignore you all of a sudden, they pull away, and they're getting the expected reaction out of you, which is making you feel nervous, making you question what's happened, making you try to chase them to give an explanation of whether anything's wrong, and you're obviously concerned as you approach them. When you have that kind of reaction to the narcissist, it regulates them. It makes them feel good about themselves. It validates them. And that's what they expect when they pull away and ignore you after having spent some time love bombing you, giving you a lot of attention. Because as soon as they pull away, as soon as they start to ignore you, they just sit back, they kick back, relax, they wait, they hope, and most importantly, they expect you to have that kind of reaction where you become anxious, you become stressed, you become concerned, and you take certain actions to try to get an explanation from them about what's happened or if anything is wrong. And usually, narcissists do get the response they're after. Usually, when they approach their partner, supply, whoever, in that way, it works. And sometimes that push pull, it can go on for a long time. But what happens when you don't react as they expect? What happens when they pull away, they ignore you, and then you mirror that? Well, they might give it some time, thinking, oh, yeah, you're going to come around. Of course you are. You're head over heels over them. You're not going to manage to spend too much time away from them. But what if still nothing? You just stay pulled away. You keep mirroring them, and you just go about your business. Of course, the narcissist starts to get a bit concerned and they get a bit confused, and then they start losing their own confidence, thinking, did they misjudge the situation? Are you maybe not that interested in them? If they play that game too much longer, is there a risk that they'll lose you? So narcissists, they'll tend to come back and approach you again, and they'll so often be very nice, be very interested in you, ask how you're doing, saying, hey stranger, how you been, where you been, why haven't you called, why haven't you reached out, as if they hadn't taken any action to ignore you in the first place. And then they're really carefully gauging your response to see if you were at all nervous, to see how committed you really are, to see if maybe you don't care. So they're trying to see your interest levels. And if your interest levels aren't very high, then they'll try to get you interested in them. So they'll, of course, take the love bombing up a notch, dedicate a bit more time and attention towards you, schmooze you a bit more, all that good stuff, right? Because they're trying to get you into a position where you become more interested in them and they can kind of just ignore and withdraw and feel validated from the fact that they're making you uncomfortable, they're making you worried, they're making you concerned. But what if the cycle repeats? Or what if you just stand your ground when they ignore you and you ignore them back? What if they take a step to pull away and you pull away even further? Well, if the narcissist ever thought that you were kind of good supply, then you're really getting them to obsess over you because it's almost like you're beating them at their own game. And how can that be? They're more clever than you. They've got more game than you. You know, they have it, you don't. How can you be getting the better of them? And then they can't quite understand because they wouldn't be approaching you in that way unless they were convinced that you were the kind of person who would fall for them and need them more than they would need you. But things are not really unraveling the way they want, hope, and expect. So if you do go in that kind of state of ignoring them, mirroring them, and maybe taking it up a notch and doing it even more than they were to you, narcissists often find themselves in this kind of rumination thinking, what's wrong with this person? Why aren't they behaving the way I need them to behave? And then they start getting a bit angry and dreadful of the thought of you, but at the same time, that just makes them focus on you even more. Um, narcissists sometimes end up getting more hooked on their supply than the supply does on them, when the supply is good at mirroring their ways right back at them. And when you do that to the narcissist, you often do get them kind of hooked on you because now they're trying to work you out. Now they're trying to wonder, where is their blind spot? How are you getting the better of them when they're playing their game perfectly? Because narcissists are super confident and they think when they are approaching something in a way that means they'll win, they expect to win. And when they don't, they struggle to understand what's gone wrong. That's why mirroring the narcissist, if you know how to do that, is just one of the most powerful things. Of course, you don't want to play games or do anything very long. You know, when you do that, you probably just want to jump ship. But when the narcissist experiences that from somebody who they didn't think much of, that they took for granted, or rather underestimated, it really kind of gets them in this deep thought about just wondering, you know, what's up with you? Why aren't you predictable? Why aren't you like most people? You know, they might even wonder if you're like they are. But it's interesting because narcissists, when their supply doesn't really behave in a predictable way as they need and expect, that's when narcissists so often start getting hooked and obsessed on the idea of the supply, because the supply, A, is just not predictable, and B, is apparently much stronger than they had anticipated. And that kind of thing can really get the narcissist, you know, just wrapped up in the thought of, is there anything they can do to flip the situation around? And the more they think about it, you know, if you think about somebody nonstop for days, weeks, months, you know, you're kind of investing into that person because you're investing emotional energy into that person. So the narcissists, they end up investing a lot of emotional energy into people who don't quite play the script the way the narcissist needs, and the people who, in a way, get the better of the narcissist. So you don't want to play games, because if you do that, almost like trying to give them payback and kind of give them a taste of their own medicine, sometimes you end up getting the narcissist more invested into you, and you don't want that, because when the time comes and you realize you want to fully detach from them, if they're fully invested into you emotionally, they won't let you go so easily. And that's why you should really just go away and just not give them much food for thought, and let them kind of eventually move on. You don't want to be kind of playing the push pull very much and kind of be winning at it, so to speak, because actually that's not good for you, because that just means, one day you'll want to detach from them, and then they'll somehow be focused on you, and then you start getting this toxicity into your life, which very soon you realize you don't want anymore at all. So just know that it's a good way to mirror the narcissist. When the narcissist tries to play this ignoring game with you, the worst thing is when you just kind of want them back and just try to get them to pay attention to you again. That's like the worst thing. What you really need to do is just mirror them back. And then once when you realize you're with somebody just playing games, of course you need to find your way out. But just you don't want to stick into that kind of dynamic too long, because it's not healthy. And as soon as you realize you're dealing with a toxic person, that's where you should plan your escape. But just acknowledge the way their mindset works, and how they always have to be winning, and how they're very confident. And then when something happens and all of a sudden things don't turn out to be so predictable as they once thought, sometimes they really become super focused on that person, that thing. And it's just like, it's not really healthy for them, but it's just the way their mind works. And if they can't work something out, and they thought they had worked that something out, but they all of a sudden they realize they don't understand it, it really kind of gets them in this mental loop. But yeah, no matter how much they might chase, it's one of those things where they want you to chase them when they ignore you, but then when you ignore them back, they start chasing you. So no matter how much they might chase later, you're out. Thanks for watching.